Welcome back to the Hidden Order. Today we're looking at something unsettling but very real. It doesn't start with danger. It starts with convenience. One detail reveals there is far more happening beneath the surface. After this, you may never scroll the same way again. Viewer discretion is advised. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the reality our children are growing up in. A world where identity is no longer shaped by real experiences, but by algorithms. Children aged 5, 6, 7 who don't know what they truly like anymore but know exactly how to scroll. TikTok kids, YouTube shorts. Endless screens rewarding every glance with cheap dopamine. In the United States, parents are panicking. Psychologists are raising alarms. Governments are beginning to talk about bans. Because an entire generation is being raised not by parents, not by schools, but by an invisible algorithm that decides what you see, what you feel, and who you become. These are the children of the algorithm. And if you don't understand what's happening now, it may already be too late. Dopamine is not happiness. It is motivation. It is the chemical that tells the brain this is important, do it again. In a child's brain, dopamine is extremely powerful because the systems that control impulse, patience, and self-regulation are not fully developed. Platforms like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels are not random. Every sound, every cut, every swipe is engineered to trigger small dopamine spikes. Not once. Hundreds of times per hour. For an adult brain, this is already hard to resist. For a child, it is overwhelming. A child does not scroll because they enjoy the content. They scroll because their brain is being trained to expect the next reward. The next video. The next surprise. The next hit. This is why children become irritated, anxious, or aggressive when the phone is taken away. It is not misbehavior. It is withdrawal. In real life, dopamine is slow. You build something. You practice. You fail. You improve. In short-form content, dopamine is instant and endless. No effort. No waiting. No frustration allowed. The brain learns that effort is unnecessary and boredom becomes unbearable. This is why many parents say the same thing. My child can't focus. My child gets bored instantly. My child doesn't enjoy toys, books, or outdoor play anymore. The brain has been conditioned to expect constant stimulation, and reality cannot compete. What makes this more dangerous is age. The younger the child, the deeper the conditioning. When dopamine pathways are shaped during early development, the brain learns one rule. Stimulation equals value. Silence equals nothing. This is not about weak parenting. This is about systems designed to capture attention as long as possible. Children are not choosing this. Their brains are being trained. And this is only the first layer. Because once dopamine controls attention, something else starts to disappear. Identity. A child's brain is not a smaller version of an adult brain. It is under construction. Neural pathways are being formed based on repetition, attention, and reward. What a child focuses on repeatedly becomes the brain's default mode. Short-form content changes this process. When the brain is exposed to constant novelty, rapid cuts, and endless stimulation, it adapts. Not because it wants to, but because it has to. The brain learns to expect speed. It learns to expect intensity. Anything slower starts to feel uncomfortable. This is why focus becomes fragile. Reading a page feels exhausting. Listening feels difficult. Sitting still feels almost painful. The brain is not damaged, but it has been trained for a different environment, one where attention is constantly reset every few seconds. Over time, the brain stops going deep. It stays on the surface. Thoughts become shorter. Emotions become reactive. The ability to tolerate frustration weakens. This is not a moral failure. It is neuroplasticity doing exactly what it is designed to do. Adapt to input. Studies and clinical observations show the same pattern. Increased anxiety, emotional volatility, reduced impulse control, difficulty delaying gratification. When stimulation drops, discomfort rises. Silence feels threatening instead of calming. What worries researchers most is timing. When this rewiring happens during early development, the brain does not remember another baseline. This becomes normal. Not scrolling feels wrong. Slowness feels empty. School struggles are often the first visible sign. Not because children are less intelligent, but because traditional learning cannot compete with an optimized feed. A teacher speaks. The brain waits for a cut, a reward, a change. When it doesn't come, attention collapses. This is how a generation grows up overstimulated, yet underdeveloped in patience, focus, and emotional regulation. And when attention fragments, something deeper begins to fracture. The sense of self. Identity is not something you are born with. It is something you build through repetition, struggle, curiosity, and choice. You try things. You fail. You discover what excites you and what doesn't. Over time, a sense of self begins to form. In an algorithm-driven environment, this process changes. The child does not explore. The feed explores the child. Every pause, every replay, every second of attention is tracked and optimized. Interests are not discovered. They are suggested, amplified, and repeated until they feel familiar. Instead of asking "Who am I?" the brain learns a different question. What gets rewarded? What gets likes? What gets views? Behavior slowly shifts to match what performs well. Language, humor, opinions, and even emotions begin to mirror what the algorithm pushes the most. This is why trends move so fast and individuality feels thinner. One week everyone talks the same, dresses the same, thinks the same. Not because children want to copy, but because the system rewards sameness. Difference does not scale well. Familiar patterns do. When identity is built from content instead of experience, it becomes fragile. Remove the screen and confusion appears. Silence feels uncomfortable. Boredom feels empty. Many teenagers describe this feeling in the same way. I don't know who I am when I'm offline. Psychologists call this an identity vacuum. A space where a stable sense of self should be forming, but instead is constantly overwritten by external input. The self becomes reactive instead of rooted, flexible instead of grounded. The most dangerous part is that this feels normal. There is no clear moment when something breaks. The change is gradual, invisible, subtle, until one day, a generation reaches adulthood without ever having built a core identity outside the algorithm. And when identity is weak, influence becomes easy. Control becomes effortless. What started as a tool slowly became a substitute. Screens were introduced to keep children busy for a moment, then for longer periods, then as a default solution. Not because parents don't care, but because modern life leaves little room for silence, patience, and constant supervision. Platforms noticed this gap and moved into it. YouTube Kids, autoplay, recommended videos, endless feeds designed to feel safe while quietly optimizing engagement. The algorithm does not calm a child, it occupies them. It replaces boredom with stimulation and silence with noise. Over time, the screen becomes the regulator of emotions. When a child is restless, upset, or bored, the device appears. The brain learns a simple association. Discomfort equals screen. Calm equals stimulation. This is not parenting by intention, but parenting by system design. What makes this dangerous is that parents believe the content is neutral or educational, while the algorithm's priority is retention, not development. It does not ask what a child needs, it asks what keeps them watching. This is how the role of guidance slowly shifts. Values are no longer reinforced primarily by parents or real-life feedback. but by content loops, trends, and engagement metrics. The algorithm becomes the invisible authority in the room. Always present. Always influencing. And unlike a human caregiver, it never gets tired, never questions itself, and never stops optimizing for attention. In the United States, this conversation is no longer theoretical. It is public, loud, and urgent. Parents are not just worried. They are scared. Pediatricians, psychologists, and teachers are reporting the same patterns again and again. Children with anxiety symptoms at younger ages. Attention spans collapsing. Emotional regulation becoming harder to teach. This is why hearings began. Former big tech employees sat in front of Congress and admitted what many parents already felt. These platforms are not neutral. They are engineered to maximize engagement, even when the user is a child. Internal documents revealed that companies knew about negative effects on mental health long before the public did. The problem was not ignorance. It was prioritization. Lawsuits followed. States began suing social media companies, accusing them of knowingly designing addictive products for minors. School districts reported learning difficulties on a scale never seen before. Emergency rooms reported rising cases of anxiety and depression among children and teenagers. Parents started to notice something unsettling. When screens were removed, children didn't become calmer. They became distressed, angry, withdrawn. This was the moment many realized this was not just a habit. It was dependency. Some states proposed age verification. Others discussed banning certain features like autoplay and infinite scroll for minors. The conversation shifted from freedom of choice to protection of development. Because a child cannot consent to manipulation they cannot understand. What makes the panic spread so fast is this realization. This is not about bad content. It is about systems that work too well on developing brains. The same tools that keep adults scrolling are far more powerful when applied to children. The United States is reacting first, not because the problem is exclusive to America, but because the scale made it impossible to ignore. And once panic reaches policymakers, it usually means the damage is already visible. Because by the time a system is questioned publicly, it has already shaped a generation in private. Every generation is shaped by its environment. Not by intentions but by exposure. What surrounds a developing mind the most becomes its teacher. For today's children, that teacher is no longer primarily parents, schools, or communities. It is an algorithm. The algorithm does not love, guide, or protect. It measures. It tests. It adjusts. Its goal is not growth but engagement. Attention becomes the currency. Time becomes the product. And the younger the user, the longer the potential return. This is the uncomfortable truth. Children are not the priority of these systems. They are the most valuable audience. Not because of who they are today but because of who they will become tomorrow. Lifelong users. Predictable patterns. Trainable behavior. When attention is captured early, influence follows naturally. Preferences form. Habits solidify. Values are nudged. Not through force but through repetition. The most powerful control is not restriction. It is normalization. When something feels natural, it is no longer questioned. Parents often ask the wrong question. How much screen time is too much? The real question is different. Who is shaping my child when I am not present? Because influence does not require permission. It only requires exposure. This is not a call for panic. It is a call for awareness. Technology itself is not the enemy. But leaving development entirely in the hands of systems optimized for profit is a risk no previous generation has faced. The future will not be decided by how advanced our technology becomes. It will be decided by who controls attention during development. Because the ones who raise the next generation will define the world they inherit.